Havoc.
News, interviews, and more.
We just reek of Huntsville Havoc hockey.
Welcome to a special edition of the Reekin Havoc podcast. I'm Tim Lambert. It's kind of an extended Meet the Reeker episode. Catherine Wistoft has been a part of our team doing social media since early on in the history of the podcast and has appeared here and there in various episodes, but we've never gotten around to putting her in the spotlight like Laura and I introduced ourselves in the beginning. So we thought we'd remedy that situation and give Catherine her place in the sun for a while when the Reekin Havoc podcast continues. One of the worst feelings you can have is that of being stranded. Well, BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair makes that a thing of the past, with 24/7 towing services and roadside assistance in the northern Alabama and southern Tennessee areas. But that's not all. They also offer truck and trailer repair, mobile welding, brake service and repair, new and used tires, and other major and minor repairs. Their name says it all, BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair. For 24/7 response, call 497-8234. That's 497-8234. BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair. Got something to say? Put it on a t-shirt, or hoodie, or apron, or even an iPhone case. Just go to daddyoscustomtees.com and make it happen. Look through their selection of ready-made designs, or make one of your own. Check out their special hockey designs, too. With Daddy O's Custom Tees, you can truly have it your way. Look for Daddy O's Custom Tees on Facebook, follow them on Twitter or Instagram, or go online to daddyoscustomtees.com. That's DADDYOS Custom TEES.com. Daddy O's Custom Tees. They've got your back or front.
Let's go in
The slot.
We're back with the Reekin Havoc podcast. We were originally planning to feature forward Connor Fries this week, but a situation arose that kept him from joining us. Hopefully he'll be able to come on next week. So that gives us a chance to do something we've been meaning to do for a long time and introduce you to the person behind our social media, Catherine Wistoft. You know, you're substituting for Connor Fries this week.
I love that.
For the listeners out there, he had a commitment that arose that probably most folks would like to avoid, and so I'll just leave it at that. But let's just start things off. Where are you from?
Born and raised right here in Huntsville.
Okay, where'd you go to school?
I went to a very small school in Marshall County. So I'm from Huntsville, and like everything I do is in Huntsville, but I live about 20 minutes outside in Arab. So I went to a very small school in the county.
Okay. What school was it?
It's Brindley Mountain.
Brindley Mountain. Yeah. Okay. Well, now you mentioned that you have played sports. Was it growing up? Was it at Brindley Mountain or before that, or all the way through growing up years?
Yeah, it was all through. As soon as I was old enough, my parents kind of made me and my sisters try everything. Like, we all had to try t-ball. We all had to try dance. We all had to try soccer. I don't remember. I did basketball, so I did softball all the way up. I did basketball for a couple of years. I did volleyball in middle school and high school. I did dance for a couple of years, so I was kind of always busy.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, it kept you out of trouble. Maybe.
Maybe. I think my parents would agree with that, but sure.
You know, I think it's good for kids to compete in all sports because, you know, if your intent is to grow up and, you know, compete in something, some sport, you know, it's just good to get those muscles used to all kind of different movements. I mean, you end up, you know, zoning in on one or two, maybe if you're Michael Jordan or something. But yeah, I mean, coaches and athletes, you know, are all saying, yeah, kids need to play everything that they can, you know. So
yes, we had to try almost everything at least once. And this spring, actually, I helped my brother-in-law coach a t-ball team that my niece and nephew were on, and they actually are named Raising Havoc. My sister came up with it, and so I made the logo. It's Raising Havoc, and they have a little wolf, and it was kind of inspired by both the hockey team and then my sister kind of based it off the podcast.
Oh, okay. So, how old did you say it was, the t-ball team?
It's t-ball, so they're 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. I bet that's about like herding cats.
Yes. It's a lot of time spent trying to keep kids focused more than anything. But, I kind of forget the difference that a couple of months is when they're that young. So thinking like the difference at the beginning of the season versus our last game was last week or the week before. The difference is like insane.
Yeah.
Like how quickly they learn things and pick up on things and grow. So.
But I think it's kind of funny because my kids played, youth baseball and softball and soccer, but they started out in baseball, and I just always think it's funny looking at the kids who are stuck out there in the outfield, and the ball's never going to get hit to them, so they're out there, with their gloves on their heads or watching the airplanes fly or picking the grass up, and talking to each other.
We had a lot of kids that could hit to the outfield, both like on the team that I coached and like the teams that we played. Mm-hmm. They're hitting it out there. We have a kid on our team that can just about touch the fence when he hits it.
Oh, okay. Of course, those fields aren't as big as the bigger kids either. So, did you ever think that you might want to go up to the next level in basketball or softball or whatever?
When the sport was still really fun for me to play, yes. So when I was 10, 11, 12, I was like, yeah, I could do this in college, and then it got to the point where it was kind of taking over other things, and I enjoy my time outside of the season enough that I learned pretty quickly that I feel that way during the season, but not during the off season.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of cemented that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when it stops being fun, then that's, kind of the time to quit.
Yeah.
So what drew you to hockey?
I don't know that I have a clear answer for that. I feel like I would see things, on social media of like, oh, the best hockey fights of the season, or the best goals, like things of that nature. And I always thought it was so cool. And I know that I can't ice skate to save my life. So I figured that's got to be tough, doing all that and you're on ice skates. And what year are we in? 2025. So 2023, I got tickets. I told one of my best friends, I said, hey, we're going to this game tonight. Are you down? And he said, yeah. And we go to a game, and I just absolutely fell in love immediately. The end of the first period, I turned to my friend. I was like, oh, I'm in, like, for life. This is the most fun I've ever had at a sporting event.
And was it a Havoc game?
It was, okay. Yes. We just, and, sports events anyways are so much better in person. So, like, getting to do that, like, every weekend during hockey season just makes it that much better, I think.
Yeah. I've tried to watch hockey on TV, and I remember back several years ago, Fox Sports they had hockey on TV, and they would highlight the puck with this little, it might be like a purple streak. I guess the intent was so you could see where the puck was on TV, and kind of a gimmick there. And I don't see that happening now. So, I don't know that it helped too much, or maybe that was just a Fox thing. But
see, I use NHL. I use hockey on TV to kind of help me learn the rules a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing how rules are being broken, or I can Google it and then look at the game and see how it matters. And that way, so now NHL is a lot more fun for me to watch now that I'm invested so much.
Yeah. And it's, you're dependent on the camera people to keep up with the puck too. So, if they lose it, then, you lose it too. But it's funny how you can go to the Havoc game and watch from that upper deck in the VBC, and it's, you can pretty much keep up with it.
Right.
So, of course, you watch and see where all the players are skating to, but still, I just think it's easier for me to keep up with where the puck is, just watching the puck itself,
yes,
than it is on TV.
I agree.
So what are since you've been a Havoc fan here for a couple of seasons here now?
2, which is insane.
What are your all-time favorite hockey or Havoc players so far?
Oh man. I mean, from the get-go, probably like number one that stood out was Reggie, just because, immediately going to he's kind of, what's the term they use? Enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's going to get in a fight, he's probably first in line. This is hard. Jack is really quick, fast. He's really good at scoring for us. Oh man. Gio has come in as like a fantastic rookie. Like, I think if you didn't know, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
That he's come in so well and melded so well with the team. I think it's really easy to see when players, if they're coming in from other teams or they're being borrowed from a lower league or anything like that. You can see, at least in my experience, pretty quickly who isn't like just melting right in with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gio has done a really good job of that. Oh man.
Think how hard it would be if you'd been a Havoc fan since 20 years.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, man, I feel like it's so hard to not just say like everyone who I've ever seen on the ice.
Yeah.
Especially like hearing, talking to them. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's for them.
All right, let me pause here. How are you talking to me? Are you talking to me speakerphone or just directly into the phone, or?
I'm on speakerphone. Do you need me to change?
Yeah, let's do that, because you kind of drop out sometimes when I say something, then I kind of miss what you're saying, and so I think that might come across better. I meant to say something before.
No, you're fine.
Okay. All right. That sounds better.
Okay.
Okay. So, what are some of the favorite moments since you've become a fan? Whether maybe not an ice moment. Maybe just peripherally.
Right. Oh man, I remember I have this on my phone. Like, this is recorded on my phone. We were playing Peoria. Ugh. And
don't you just hate to say that name?
And we went into multiple, this was not this past season, but like 2023-24 season. And it was like one of the last regular season home games. And we went into like multiple rounds of shootouts. It was just over and over and over. Finally won that game, and I remember I just lost control of my body and brain, and the sound on my phone that comes out of my body is unlike anything I've ever heard in my life. Like, I'm just screaming because I'm so glad that we won that game. Oh my, well, that they won that game. I didn't do anything, but I saw a group of them. I think it was like 4 or 5 of them out at a restaurant. And I had on like my Huntsville Havoc hoodie and everything. And my friend was like, well, go say hi to them. I said, no, thank you. Like, in the nicest way. They're guys, they're just trying to get some food.
Yeah.
But somebody did come up to them, I believe. And they were so nice. Like, in the middle of their meal, they stopped eating and, like, spoke to them and whatever. And that's really cool. You know, they didn't come down to good old Huntsville, Alabama. You know, they didn't know they were signing up for social media and seeing people in public and being well known as, you know, they are for being in the South. You know, they didn't sign up for that. They just signed up to play some hockey. So the fact that they're like willing, you know, to talk to people outside of the arena or be nice while they're eating, anything like that, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, they all just seem like good guys.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll be back with more of the Reekin Havoc podcast.
My name is Joel, and I came to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in December of 1987 to be treated for osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. We didn't know anything about St. Jude. We didn't know what they meant, or that, you know, when we got here, what we would do, how it would be taken care of. And when we arrived, we found out that my family wasn't going to have to pay for any of my treatment, not for my medicine, not for travel, not for housing, not for food. St. Jude was going to cover all that. St. Jude supported me in every way, from, you know, taking that financial burden off my parents to making sure that all of my family was included in this time. St. Jude literally means everything to me. I get to go home to my family tonight. I get to cook dinner for them. That's what you're giving. You are giving us everything by supporting St. Jude. So thank you so much.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
This is Brian Wilson, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Turning the corner here, and I asked you about this beforehand to make sure you were comfortable about addressing this subject. Something you've mentioned a few times in our text threads, but not in any of our episodes, is that you fall victim to focal seizures. And I had never heard of that before. And a lot of folks may not have heard of it as well. So can you educate us on what that is?
Right. So I have, it's a type of epilepsy. They're called complex partial or complex focal seizures. They're, from what my doctor has educated me on, is it's a pretty rare type of epilepsy. So when people have quote unquote normal epileptic seizures, it is kind of like firing randomly around your brain. You know, when they go unconscious and they go into what's called a grand mal seizure, it just kind of fires randomly around the brain. Me, when I have a seizure, it fires in exactly the same spot every single time. So anytime I have a seizure, it's damaging the same part over and over and over again. And mine is hitting in a spot. It's in part of my hippocampus, and so it's affecting my memory and it's affecting motor function. It can affect like like language and stuff, but I don't have any issues with that. But it definitely affects motor function and memory. I used to have like almost photographic memory. You could ask my parents. I used to do stuff all the time to mess with them. But I have horrible memory. Horrible. So
when I did some research about this on epilepsy.com after you told me what it was. And it says anybody can have these seizures, but they may be more likely in somebody who may have had a head injury or a brain infection or stroke, something like that. But a lot of times they don't know what the cause is. So, I mean, were they able to pinpoint maybe something that caused it with you?
So with epilepsy, there's 3 age ranges that it's the most common to start occurring in, and that's kids, young kids, and then 18 to 22, and then over the age of 50. And mine started when I was 18. I was in college, about 4.5 hours away from home, actually, when I had my first seizure, and I had never passed out before. I had never known what that felt like in my life. And, I'm 18 years old, away from my parents and everything, so I wake up in an ambulance, and I'm terrified out of my mind. Luckily, my dad was on a business trip, so he was only about 40 minutes away. And because I had never had anything, they never could pinpoint what started them. I've never had a concussion. I've never had anything like that could have possibly triggered it. We had no idea. It was a random night. And, so,
where were you in college at?
I was at Troy.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was in 2018, and I didn't get diagnosed until, I want to say, 2020 or maybe 2021. It was, a long time of having really no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
Because the doctor at the Troy hospital, no offense to you, brother, go off, but he assumed that, it was something I was doing because I'm a college kid. So he thought it was, something not appropriate.
Yeah. Well, now, about how often were you having these in this 2 or 3 year period?
It would range from, I think maybe the closest I've ever had to seizures, very luckily for myself, is probably a month, but it would range from that to 6 months.
Okay.
I've probably had, since I was 18, I've probably had, if I had to guess, probably between 30 and 40 seizures.
In that whole time then?
Yeah.
Since then?
In relative terms compared to, maybe what you see in other cases, that's not that bad.
Well, still.
None is preferable, but.
Yeah. Well, now, are you aware while you're having one? Because I know, some people aren't, some people are.
Right. So I have, and something that's super common with epilepsy is people getting what's called an aura, which is, it's coming on.
Yeah.
There are signs that your body is giving other people or your body is giving you, telling you that it's about to happen. And I have that. It can range in time between, 15 seconds to 5 or 6 minutes that I'm in this kind of very strange state. I do eventually pass out, grand mal seizure, everything. But my aura is very, what's the word? I guess the only word I can use is strange. My current neurologist, he says that it's very rare, for the kind of aura that I have, which is just I can look at you and I can talk to you, but I don't know what I'm saying, and I can't really communicate that I'm about to pass out.
Yeah.
And I can't, and if you're talking to me, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'll respond. There's just no telling what I'm going to say.
Well, somebody says you have an aura about you, you thinking you have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people have what's called a post-ictal state, which is right after your seizure. So that's right after, if you're one of those that has a grand mal where you pass out, right when you wake up is called post-ictal. Most of the time, you'll be awake for a period of time and then go back to sleep. And then when you wake up the second time, you don't remember the first time at all. I have that, and I sometimes I remember bits and pieces of it, but most of the time I don't. I do know that I am very, 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 very mean when I first wake up. I have yelled at people. I am not very nice.
Oh. Now, has this ever happened while you're driving? Or, how fast does it come on?
It's never happened while I was driving. I've been in the car, but I wasn't driving. And most of the time, I think I've only had it come on me so quickly, maybe once or twice. Usually I can feel it coming on at least 2 or 3 minutes. So I have time to, stop what I'm doing and sit down and get someone's attention. Everybody that I've ever worked with knows my signs, because I can't talk. So I just have to start banging on stuff around me so people can kind of get attention.
Well, I know, we hadn't really done a deep dive into this, because I was just kind of wanting to get a little bit of background, of who you are. But is there any misconception that others might have, or have you had to, go through some unpleasant treatment from ignorant people along the way?
I don't really have to go through unpleasant treatment from people, just because it did change. It obviously changed my entire life, the entirety of it, but it doesn't change what I can do or how I act or anything like that. It's just, I guess really the only thing that changes is after I have a seizure, people are very tiptoe around me and don't want to leave me alone. And after I have a seizure, that's exactly what I want to do, is be by myself. But my parents are very hovery after I have a seizure, which I completely understand. I'm sure it's a terrifying thing to witness your child go through. So that's really it, is just so much concern for me. So I can't really complain about that,
Yeah. How nasty people can be, and I didn't know if, maybe you had to go through some, I don't know, folks just harassing you or something,
If I did, luckily for me, I'm very quick to stand up for myself, and I will be nasty very quickly back.
I started to say, while it was going on, you may have set them in their place, and then.
Yeah, I'm much more likely to do that. Yeah, actually, that has happened. One of my best friends, me and her went on a trip. We went on a cruise to Mexico. Oh my gosh! And I had a seizure in the town of Cozumel, Mexico. And I have a nasal spray that you can use once I'm unconscious and everything to stop the seizing. I don't think that it's actively worked yet, to be honest, but I had that on me, and I passed out. I start seizing. My best friend, God bless her soul, pulled it out and was using it on me. And some random lady, some other cruise tourist lady, started screaming that my best friend had Narcan and was having to use it on me, which, if you know what Narcan is for, You know what Narcan is for, Tim?
I've heard of it.
It's for drug overdosing.
Yeah.
So, she started screaming that I'm having to have Narcan. And my best friend, luckily, she's just as standing up for herself as I am. And she put that lady in her place. I think she kind of asked her, "Are you stupid? This is not Narcan."
Well, how long ago was this?
The cruise trip was probably, I think it was 2021.
Okay.
So, it was a while ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you may have ended up on somebody's TikTok video if it was to happen now.
I thought to look for it. Maybe I should.
just the way this woman was thinking, they would have had their phones out in a second.
That's true.
So, is there maybe something else you'd like others to understand about it?
Probably just that, it doesn't mean that we're not people and that we can't function and have a job and live like everybody else. I went without driving for almost 2 years because of seizures. And that was a very big deal for me. Driving is my favorite thing to do. I will just get in my Jeep and drive around with the top off. So not being able to drive for 2 years really, really, really was very hard on me mentally and emotionally. And 2 years of that was insane.
Did you ever?
You can, on the other side of that and be fine.
Yeah. Did you ever get rid of that Jeep?
I still have it.
Okay. I'd seen pictures of it that you'd posted, trying to sell it.
Every year I sell it, and then I'm like, I can't. I love it.
All right. Well, like I mentioned, when we were texting, maybe this could be the beginning of another fundraiser for the Havoc.
Yeah, like I said, with those warm-ups they had this past season, during November, every game, when we would go, I would just turn to my mom. I'm like, I know it's cancer, I know it's fighting cancer jerseys, but in November, it's epilepsy awareness jerseys, because it fits.
Well, you contacted me pretty early on in the evolution of this podcast. You wanted to lend a hand, and you've been a big help. I'm going to tell you, you've been a big help with the social media. Like I've said, I've wanted to get you more involved, doing things as time goes on with the podcast as well. And I'll put this out to anybody else who feels like they might have a talent or something that they can, help us out with, or maybe some ideas or something. Had you ever done anything social media wise before, other than maybe getting on Facebook and scrolling down through all the nonsense?
No, not really. I would just, a little organization at Troy. I helped out just a little. I didn't even have access to the accounts or anything. Here's a picture if you want to post it. That was it.
Okay. So what do you do in real life?
I work in admitting for Huntsville Hospital Health System. That's what I do. Okay. And you are which location are you at, in Huntsville? No, I'm at Marshall Medical North.
Okay.
It's right at my house.
Okay.
But it's easier.
Well, I know the listeners to this podcast don't hear from you as much as they do me or Laura. So it's good that we could give them a chance to kind of get to know you a little bit better. Is there anything else maybe you'd like us to know? Maybe some Catherine Wistoft trivia?
I don't know. I'm just...
you've given us a big trivia bit already.
That's probably the last thing I share with people most of the time. I don't know. I'm just a 20-something that really enjoys watching hockey. During hockey season, that's all you're going to get out of me.
All right. Well, it's been fun having you on and informative. I think you and Laura have something that you're going to try to work on.
Yes, very much. Stay tuned. I'm being a little quiet, but if you see me at a hockey game, best believe my voice is gone.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right. That was Catherine Wistoft, the Reekin Havoc social media guru. Thanks again to her for her time.
The Reekin Havoc Podcast.
In June of 2005, our twin girls were delivered, Melissa and Ann Catherine, and they were born 14 weeks early.
Amy and Chris George talk about the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund.
They both weighed less than 2 pounds. Ann Catherine was 115 and Melissa was 1'9". Melissa lived for a couple of hours, but all of the medical technology in the world just could not have saved her, and she passed away while she was in the NICU. Chris realized pretty early that God had given us a platform that we could use to try to help people. So Chris and I started the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund at Huntsville Hospital.
To know that Melissa's name is living on, her legacy continues, and I think that was very important to Amy and I, is why the fund is named after her. Because for 7 weeks, Melissa fought so that Aunt Catherine would have a chance to live. And I think that we wouldn't be doing her name any justice if we didn't carry on, because we know we wanted to honor her and honor her legacy. And the community, Huntsville Havoc, the community in Huntsville itself, they've rallied around that. And it's been a wonderful support system for us. And I think for a lot of families too, when they see total strangers that are giving.
We're online at HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org. Click on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund and you can give that way.
There's no donation that's too small, and every dollar is just as important as the next one. And if you're giving, then we understand you're giving because you care. And that's what's important, is that we've learned over the years that people give because they care.
And you can volunteer. If you're interested in that, you can click on the volunteer tab to fill out an application. We are grateful for any type of support, because we know that once we pull those dollars together, we can do big things.
For more information on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund, visit HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org.
I'm Gabe Wisdom, and my favorite player is Reginaldo, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
If you have points left on your Havoc app, Saturday is the last day to use them. Don't let them go to waste. The Havoc Booster Club will be doing a fundraiser at Slim Chickens on South Parkway June 7th from noon till 4 p.m. Stop by for lunch, mention the Booster Club, and a portion of the sales will go to the Booster Club. The Huntsville Havoc On Ice Youth Summer Camp is back. Session 1 is June 16th through 19th. Session 2 is July 21st through 24th. Kids can learn from head coach Stu Steffen and assistant coach Tyler Piacentini. Cost is $350 for skaters and $300 for goalies for the 4 days. For more information, go to huntsvillehavoc.com/youth-camp. The Havoc Free Agent Showcase for all junior, college, and aspiring pro players will be held this year at the St. Peter's Recplex in a partnership with the Missouri State Ice Bears, August 1st through 3rd. Coaches Stu Steffen and Tyler Piacentini will be in attendance and inviting one player to the Havoc training camp. For more information, you can email ssteffen@huntsvillehavoc.com. Summer hours for the front office and team store are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday.
If you love the Huntsville Havoc, leave us a voicemail with your name, how long you've been a fan, and even some of your favorite players. Call 256-434-RKKN. That's 256-434-7556.
The Reekin Havoc Podcast.
For those returning from military service, the transition back to civilian life isn't always easy. Retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant Bill Cook talks about still serving veterans.
The mission of still serving veterans is to serve and honor veterans and their families by empowering them to build meaningful lives. And we do that through connecting to fulfilling careers, getting the benefits they deserve, or the services that they need. We have never charged anybody anything for our services. A group of business leaders in town felt there was a need to help the seriously wounded make that transition back into civilian life. Employment services, VA benefits, and connections to other community services. That's what we do. If you're a veteran and you need help, please get a hold of us. Go to that website, ssb.org, and you can find out pretty much anything you need to know about still serving veterans.
In Huntsville, call 256-883-7035.
For tickets, official Huntsville Havoc merchandise, and more, go to huntsvillehavoc.com. Visit our website at reekinhavoc.com. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads. And listen, follow, and subscribe to the Reekin Havoc podcast on your favorite platform to keep up with the only weekly podcast covering the Huntsville Havoc, the Reekin Havoc podcast.